Hello there, this is Alex Conway, and I'm here with John Hrastar, and he is from InterSource.net. And John, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Alex.
So please feel free to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your company and what you guys do.
Sure, thanks. InterSource is a CEO advisory firm. It's coming up on 19 years old now, started quite a bit ago. We work exclusively with CEOs, and typically they're also the founder and owner of their company. So our client is a CEO who probably started the company, still owns it, still runs it, looking to take to that next level, and is getting to the realization that that next level is different from now. Maybe not sure how, which is where we come in. All of our partners who advise the CEOs are former CEOs themselves, multiple companies, so they've got a wide background. And we combine that background with our methodology and a certain kind of working relationship, and all of that becomes an experience accelerator for the client who's looking to grow to that next level.
Great. So how did you come up with this concept, and how did you get started in this business 19 years ago?
I'd like to say it was all a grand plan. Everything's worked out exactly as I envisioned. Actually, I was bought out of a company that we had grown from nothing to about $25 million in revenue in 3 years, which these days doesn't sound like a lot, but back then it was a pretty big deal. And frankly, I was taking a break, looking for another opportunity, run a company, buy a company, do something. And I was doing some consulting, more by, sort of happenstance. People that knew me said, hey, you're not so busy. Can you help me out with this? Or can I run this idea past you? And that sort of began a solo consulting operation, which then grew into a more traditional management consulting practice, plans, project studies, expertise in-house, that type of thing. And then 3 years ago, I actually refocused the company. We'd always been doing some flavor of that one-on-one advisory work, and I brought the focus completely to the CEO advisory type of focus, and kind of restructured purely around that, and we've been doing that ever since.
Fantastic. So how do you differentiate yourselves in the marketplace, and how do you market yourselves in the kind of, I guess you're mostly in a business-to-business environment. How do you market yourselves?
Yeah, we're exclusively business-to-business.
Sure.
We don't do any consumer work. The differentiator for us is sort of good news, bad news. We're the only company that combines the proven process for dynamic business growth with the CEO advisor. There are a lot of people, a lot of companies that will help you with management issues. And, if you want to run a company or do something better in that regard, leadership, whatever, they can help with management of the company. There are also other experts, other firms, who will help you with the ownership aspect. For most business owners, it's the largest asset that they own. It's their retirement plan. It's their kids' inheritance. It's, it's of major significance, and it's personal. It's personal because it's, tied in with the family. It's tied in with retirement. It's all that, and it's a whole different animal from day-to-day operations. We pull that together. So we're working with people that have that combination of issues, which, as you can see, is, very much interrelated. And those personal issues then become business issues when it gets to when do I retire? And that becomes a business. Well, how do I build a management team? So there's a transition, et cetera, et cetera. So our differentiation is a couple things. One is we combine management and ownership. Two, all of our people are former CEOs multiple times, and we've got a methodology that they use. Marketing ourselves is sort of the difficult part. There's no category in people's brains for CEO advisor. There's a banker slot and a lawyer slot and a CPA and all that. CEO advisor as a kind of a position to fill or a resource to have is not something people wake up thinking about. So that makes it a little tough.
Yep. So you kind of define your own marketplace.
It's a blue ocean.
All right. So what is a typical client that you work with? Do you have a kind of a buyer persona that you find yourselves consulting to frequently, or do you kind of work across many different industries? Or
well, we work across a variety of industries. Everything we do is with companies that are either selling to other businesses or selling to the government. We don't work with consumer-oriented companies, no consumer products, no restaurants, no hospitality, those type of things. Occasionally we'll do some work with nonprofits, but not very much. So the type of business or the type of industry really isn't a factor for us. We can deal with anything. Where we find most of our focus is in the mindset and the sort of growth stage of that CEO business owner. If everything's cooking along fine and they just have to do more of the same and they'll, sort of slowly ramp their business, that's great. They don't need us. If, however, they are already experiencing or looking towards some major growth or transition, then, knowing that or having this even a vague sense that, like I said, life isn't the same between here and there, it helps to have an outside expert. So people who are either kind of already banging their heads against the wall or realizing that, well, okay, I built it to, 5 million in revenue, I want to go to 20, and I know I don't know how to do that. Somebody with that sort of mindset who's willing to listen to an outside expert, a navigator, help them guide them down the road, that's a typical client profile for us.
Okay, great. What has been one of your greatest successes or achievements, to date? If you could walk us through a client where you really helped them grow and how you kind of walk them down that path.
Sure. If we had 3 hours, I can tell you lots of stories, but let me pick one or maybe two.
Sure.
And I won't use any names for this first one because it'll become obvious why. I had a client who was a great story, actually. Immigrated to America with $300 and started with, practically nothing. And was very smart, sort of computer science and, in his case, microbiology background. And started doing some contract work, some IT work for NIH. And built it up to, maybe about 50 people, firm doing that type of work, basic government contracting. And because of the other expertise that he had in the microbiology and where they were working, created a product. And it was a bioinformatics product, which was before people really knew what bioinformatics was. And the industry was saying that is really the best product. And he, of course, would tell you that, but he was like, everything I touch is the best. But the industry was saying, this is really a good product. The way he was managing the company was the classic small entrepreneur, didn't want to give up control, kind of micromanaging things. And it was okay to a point because doing some basically straightforward government contracting was one thing, and a few more bodies out there didn't much matter. Building a product company, growing to the scale that he was talking about, worldwide customers and distribution and so forth, whole different animal. Well, I told him everything that he needed to do, which included delegation, building a management team, so on and so on and so on. And his mindset was like, no, I can do this all by myself. I will, be the next Bill Gates. Not even Bill Gates built a management team, but he sort of didn't want to hear it. Anyway, time passes, and about 4 months later, I was back in there, and I have to give him credit because he did exactly everything I told him he had to do. He built a management team. He, outsourced some of the things that he really shouldn't have been doing. He, really started to build an organization. Of course, by then it was all his idea, which is fine. You can take the credit as long as I get the cash, and the business took off from there. If he hadn't done that, his product would have been good, and because he was constraining the growth of the company, he would have been relegated to sort of the corner or, a very small piece of the market or gotten completely steamrolled by the competition, which was there, but it was about 18 months behind. He grew, kept growing for years, took a lot of money out of the company, eventually went public, became $1 billion market cap, which was pretty significant several years ago. And he personally has since cashed out and now sort of lives around the world and does some investing and whatnot. But that was one of those, if he hadn't heard it from the outside, or maybe he would have had to pound his head against a wall for too long and then lost his opportunity. But hearing that kind of thing, from the outside, been there, done that, I'm so focused running my company, now I need to know what else to do. He did it. He took the advice to heart. It was kind of funny, sort of his ego had to get, put to the side for a little bit, but he did it and built a company that was just fabulously successful and hugely valuable. And I'd like to think that it wouldn't have happened or wouldn't have happened as easily if he hadn't been working with us.
All right, thank you. That's a fantastic story.